Zen Coding is a popular plugin for many different text editors, and it provides the amazing ability to create HTML quickly, because HTML requires a lot of typing with odd characters like the open and close brackets. Thanks to Web Essentials, we now have Zen Coding in Visual Studio. This was also available in previous versions of Visual Studio with Web Essentials. But what Zen Coding will allow you to do is expand small snippets of code that are written in a very terse syntax into HTML. There is no need to type brackets. There's no need to type class equals. In general, there's no need to type much at all. For example, if I want a div with an ID of content, I can type div pound content and then hit the tab key. Zen Coding knows that I want an ID there because I used a pound sign, just like in a CSS selector. To select something by ID, use the pound sign. Likewise, if I were to undo this with Control Z, I can come back and say, no, what I really wanted was a div with a class of content, because now I'm using a dot. So go to the end of the line and hit tab. Now I have a div with a class of content. It's also possible to nest elements. So if I want a nav inside of a div, then again, use the greater than symbol, just like in CSS, to select a nav element inside of a div. That expands out to a div with a nav inside. And then, of course, you can combine these. If I want a div with an ID of head, and inside of that, a nav with a class of menu, I can expand all that HTML out. Of course, typically, what I'll have inside of the nav will be an unordered list. And I can just keep creating additional child elements here using greater than. And then typically inside of that unordered list, I'll have multiple list items. So there's also a multiplication operator with Zen Coding. If I say li times 5, that expands out to 5 list elements. And I probably want those nested inside of something. So a div with an ID of head, followed by nav with a class of menu, followed by an unordered list, followed by 5 list items. And this is what I get. What if I wanted to give those list items specific IDs? If that's the case, I could say, please give my list items IDs that are generated. I can do that by using a special syntax, item $. And now expand this out with tab. I get item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perhaps I have 10 of these. And what I want to do is align things so that I have item 01 and item 02. Everything takes up 2 positions. $sign is basically a placeholder for the number of the item. So, and using 2 $signs will give me 01 through 10. It's also possible to not just create only child elements, but also create elements at the same level. For instance, if I want a div, and inside of that, I want a header element that has a nav inside of it. But then after that, not inside of it, is a div with a class of row, followed by a div that is a bootstrap column medium 4. In fact, I want 3 of those so that I'm using all 12 units of bootstrap. Now I can expand that out. And I have my container with a header inside. I have my bootstrap row with 3 columns inside. And now it's just a matter of plugging in data or the text that I need to appear on this page. And that is Zen Coding.